Okay, we're live.
Hey everybody, welcome to Embodiment of Soul Care. This is podcast number 4, Quattro. We are here on April 30th, 2020. We do have our cup of tea. Thank you, Casey, for raising your glass to the camera. Hope you have yours and you're ready to join us. Last week we did triggers, emotional triggers, the positives, the negatives of emotional triggers. And it kind of led us into what we want to do this week, which is all about surrendering. Surrendering those emotions. And Casey had done a really cool mantra where you just take that emotion and you send it into the light and you kind of move past it. Well, we're going to get a little bit more in detail about that tonight and kind of how to work through that and what to do, what to say, things that are a little bit more simplistic, I think. Wouldn't you say, Casey, like in terms of, instead of having to always visualize, we're going to give you some props. Casey's going to show you some pretty cool things. Going back to last week, I did have quite the experience this week with a dear friend of mine. We were working on a lot of energy clearings, and in order to do so, I used our grounding meditation. So before each and every session that I did with a client or with a person of any sort, I would ground myself with that cord, make sure that I was grounded, make sure that I was surrounded with protective light, and then proceed with the session. And then after each session, I would ground myself again. So it was kind of like a full circle of grounding. And it was really, really helpful. And I had said that, Casey and I both use it on a daily basis, but I was using it really intensely this week to help with a lot of COVID patients. And it worked phenomenally. And I also would actually, through visualization, ground them as well. So I was sending grounding cords out for them and making sure that people's grounding cords, as well as mine, are not tethered or not ruined. They're not, in any way torn or stretched out. I mean, it's really important that we have those grounding cords and that they're in really good condition. So that meditation is primitive, I think. I mean, if you could wake up in the morning and do that meditation and go to bed at night doing that meditation, and would really make for a sound grounding for yourself to where you're always balanced, you're always here on the planet and not everywhere else imaginable. So yeah, I thought that was really, really helpful. And I hope a lot of you applied that to your daily ritual as well. And yeah, so let's move into this. Casey, how about you start talking a little bit about what surrender means to you or anything that you used last week. I know you did some breathing techniques this week that came from last week's session. So go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, so you had talked a lot about the belly breathing, and I was more attentive to it this week, and also did it more with August, and he's been meditating more this week, so that's been really neat. But even just throughout the day, the belly breath, and then I like the 3-part breath, where you kind of go belly, and then let it rise, and then, kind of let it fall, kind of through like the 3 Dantian centers.
Right.
So that was really, kind of helping me as well. So just your piece at the very beginning, because last week was all about relaxation and the power of relaxation and grounding, and your reminder about the belly breathing just really helped. So, just wanted to put that out there. And what was neat, so the mantra we had last week in terms of the grounding, the relaxation, I had said, what was it? I can't even remember. So anyways, I switched up the mantra this week because we were talking about, I'm trying to remember the old language that I said last week. That's so funny.
Well, that's exactly why you're switching it up.
Yeah, I release this tension to the light, whatever emotion you're feeling, I release this fear to the light. May the light transmute this fear that I'm feeling, some version of that. And so about a day after we did our last session, what really came to me, it almost like hit me like a freight train, just the word and the power of it. Because last week the mantra was good, but it wasn't like totally gelling for me. Sometimes language really makes a difference, and that's why it's fun for all of us to play with it. So what came to me was I surrender this uncertainty to the light. I surrender this fear to the divine. And I was even starting to put in like, it could be a health issue that came up, or just an issue I'm having, like my son triggers me. I surrender this trigger to the light. Oh, divine, I surrender this to you. I surrender. And so it just started building power through the week, this whole idea of surrender, letting go and letting God, giving. It's kind of like, the first podcast where I really dove into grace and the power that grace has for me. It's that pureness, it's that place within, the love within, the light within, that holds space. We've talked a lot on these podcasts about holding space. And so that's what you're surrendering to. You're surrendering to that peace within, to that pureness within, to that grace within that can hold space for anything. So I was gonna, and I do apologize. Last week, the grounding meditation I did didn't come out really well in the audio. It was really hard to hear. So I'll probably re-record something and post it this week, like just a 5-minute grounding meditation, so that if anybody just wants to use it on its own, could. And I'll have, my Bluetooth in, so you'll be able to hear it a lot better. Because it was frustrating last week. I know I got some feedback. It was frustrating. You couldn't really hear it. So, because it was just too quiet with the audio that we have here. So I'll re-record that. So today we're just going to do a really brief one. And so what was really neat, the surrender came to me, and I haven't touched this book in 2 or 3 years. I haven't even thought about it. And so of course, like all of a sudden I get this idea, I walk up to my bookshelf, I pull this off the shelf, and of course the byline, so it's called Change Me Prayers. And the byline is the hidden power of spiritual surrender. So I thought, well, how perfect is that, right? And then I was guided to this page. So I just wanted to share it with you. It really sets the space for our discussion today. And so just, close your eyes if you want to. Just take a deep breath in, feel that belly expand. Just take a moment, center yourself with the love inside your heart. See the light in your heart, grounding to the core of the earth. Just take another deep breath, breathe in the light of the earth, let it meld with the light in your heart. And just listen to this message of divine guidance. Divine beloved, may I feel safe and guided by your love. Take over my body and mind. Show me the way. Guide me always to the right actions at the right time. May I always feel immersed in your love, protected from fear and negativity. Divine beloved, let me only wish what you wish for me. May I see myself as you see me. Let me know my own divinity in every moment. May I know I am you, and may our desires be one. May the highest that is meant to happen in me and through me. May I be a vehicle for all you wish to occur. Change me into one who can breathe, relax, and rest in your arms. And with that, we will dive in further to our discussion. But surrender.
I have to say that because you and I discussed today about that word surrender and how maybe to some people that word might be a little bit too weakening for them. So Casey and I also, we have this whole phrase too, let go and let God, just let it go, let it go. And we could go into the Frozen song, but we're not going to right now, but just let it go. Okay. Surrender, let it go. However you want to say it, splatter it out, whatever it is, whatever works for you. It's pretty much whatever, like we talked about just at the beginning here, whatever linguistics is going to work for you, the simplification of the verbiage, however it works, whether you're surrendering it, you're letting it go, you're splatting it out, you're running it over, doesn't matter. Okay, sorry about that. All right, go ahead.
Perfect. Well, and so we usually do our exercise at the end where we have a recommendation for something you can do that week that's a tool you can use or something to really think about. So what came up this week, I'll tell you, this has been my absolute lifeline. What is this, right? So this is my surrender box. I renamed it this week. It used to be my spirit box, but I love calling it my surrender box. So I'm telling you, there's so much power in this little box. I was talking with Kelly today. So here's what you do. And I had created this first about 2 or 3 years ago. It must have been a call I was on or some spiritual teacher I was listening to, and they recommended this idea. And so basically, you can kind of think about however works for you. It might be your God box. It might be your, my higher self box, whatever you want to call it. My divine knowing all power of the universe within box, kind of whatever. You just find an actual box, decorate however you want. It could be big, it could be small. And then you're going to take sticky notes or just little pieces of paper. And when you have something that there's kind of like a couple of categories, it could be like for kids, they call it a worry box. So you can put your worries in there. You can put your fears in there. You could put, coronavirus in there, or something about the world. You could put, I fear X. So kind of, it's kind of a broad range of what are you fearing? What are you worrying about? And I had forgotten about this. It was still near my altar, but kind of shoved in the drawer, oh, okay. And it still had some things in it that like still applied. So I'm like, yeah, it's still in there, it's still in there, but I wasn't using it. as something. And I got to tell you, since coronavirus, like I've really been using this. Like it's been a tool that has been so, like I'll just give you an example. So you put something in, you write it on a piece of paper. Number one, worries that you have. Number two, could be desires. So it's like if you really, really want something, like I want to manifest a new house, or, kind of like we need a new living situation, or, oh gosh, we're kind of trying to decide between jobs or careers, like, I don't know which one, I don't know the right thing to do, so it could be something you really desire.
Right.
And then what was here I'm blanking on. Oh, and then it could also just be affirmations, like I want to affirm my good health, or I want to affirm my love for my family, or I want to affirm just creating new joys in life, or being curious, or, so you can kind of play with different categories of things that you put in your box. And so when you put it in, it's like you're acknowledging either it's important to you, or you're acknowledging the part of you, like, you know what, sweetie, that's okay. I understand that you have this fear, that you have this worry. We all have worries. We all have things that we loop on and that we obsess over, and that like we just can't get it to go away, and you just keep thinking about it. And so I tell you, like, I put it in the box, and there's times it's like I notice myself, let's say it's a worry, like thinking about it, and then like I had a health thing in the last 2 weeks that I was really looping on, and then there was that moment I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go right on the sticky, put it in the box. And the second I put it in the box, like every time after that, I'm like, oh, it's in the box. Like, oh, thank God, the divine's got it, Spirit's doing it, the highest and best. And I didn't have Casey, the personality, the skin suit, didn't have to worry about it anymore. And I know it sounds maybe too simple, but I just encourage anyone who's watching this, and I talked with Kelly today, and she's going to play with it. She's never done this before, so she's going to play with it for the next week and just see if it holds power for her. But it is so powerful, because it's like a trigger in a good way that you're like, oh yeah, it's in the box. I can put away that for now. Or if it's something you really, really, really want, and you're just like, how do I get it? How do I make it happen? I don't know. And you're like, oh, it's in the box. It's the universe is working on it. So and the other piece of that is, we don't always know what the best outcome is, or what the best way is to get there, or even with like coronavirus or everything that's going on, it's like we can't always see the path to the future, or the best and highest future for all. So it's good to just surrender all of your hopes, all of your desires, all of your, here's how I need to get there, here's step A, step B, and you still, take the right actions as you're called to do. You still need to be in action. Sometimes you need to just rest and relax. Sometimes you're going to be in action, do as you're guided, do as you're called. But then it doesn't have you in this, kind of fight or flight, I got to make this happen, that you're anxious about it. So it just kind of, soothes the edges of all that. So just try it. We'll kind of mention it again at the end, but there is so much power in a little box, and just keep your little stickies and just kind of go and, just write it down, put it in the box. And I got to tell you, so I told Kelly today, my marble from podcast number 2 lives in the box. And so at the end of the night, when I'm doing my meditation and holding the world in my heart and holding it all in my heart, I've even gone to like literally holding the whole box too. And then I let it, sleep in the box. So it kind of just like brings it all together. So anyways, I wanted to share that with you. And the one piece that I wanted to put in real quick about surrender is it reminds you that you're not alone. And Kelly and I talked a lot about this. It's that place within that Spirit, the universe, God is always with you, always in your heart, because sometimes we can really feel alone, or you do feel like, how am I going to make this happen? Or, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about this. I don't know what to do, and to remember, I'm always supported. I'm always guided, but sometimes you just have to be quiet enough to listen. And when you put it in the box, it acknowledges that it's okay to have those thoughts, but it also helps bring you back to that place of center, back to that still point, where now, anything can happen. Anything is possible.
Right.
And so why don't you kind of speak a little bit about, what you were thinking about?
Yeah, I think that exercise is really good. And we talked about this, and you kind of just mentioned it at the end there. The reason why it's so good is because I think that our minds get far too busy. We are, the whole thing of like, I feel anger, I feel frustration, I feel upset, I feel lost, I feel left out. All of that just kind of takes us over through the day. And a lot of times you don't have the time to sit down and try to, meditate it out, get rid of it quickly through that direction. As I said to you, Casey, the ego, which is edging God out, EGO.
I love that.
It's like the ego always is looking for something to be pissed at, no matter what. Your ego is always looking for a fight. It's always looking for anything that it can to get in there and to argue. And so when you can just take whatever it is that you're looking for to argue and get in there and get pissed at, and you can just take that and you can put it in a box and you can have that work for you, that's a beautiful thing. You know, it's simplicity, it's easy, it's gone, it's done. And if it starts to return, like Casey said, you just say, oh, it's in the box. Let it be.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do that approach, then you can do the other approach, which is, you know, sending it away, sending it into the light, sending it away from your body, sending it away from your existence. And it's really important that you know that a lot of your anger and a lot of your frustration has nothing really to do with you as a soul and as a spirit, but it has so much to do with that ego. That part of you that, like I said, is always looking for a boiling point, always looking for a way to be disappointed. And it's important that we quiet that, we silence it to a certain degree, because, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later on, but there's two dimensions, you know, that we're operating off of. There's a horizontal dimension, which is the human plane, and then there's the vertical dimension, which is going all the way deep, deep down within you, and then rising all the way up into source, into God, into infinite intelligence, into your conscious mind. And just knowing that a lot of times, you know, so many of you are trying to exist just here on this horizontal plane, and we need to exist in both. So you need to be at that crossing point of the horizontal and the vertical. And that way you can play in the human world, but you can also play in the spiritual world, which will help to allow you to let go of these, you know, emotions that need to be surrendered and make it easier for you to do so. The other thing that I was going to talk a little bit about was a lot of our suffering comes from other people. Okay, a lot of the things that we're trying to surrender is coming from other people. And that's because we are all the time looking for others to make us happy. And that's our biggest mistake, right? I mean, I don't know how many times in my lifetime I'm looking for somebody to make me happy. You know, like, why don't they approve of this about me? Why don't they like this about me? Why don't they agree with me on this? Or why are they looking at me or telling me that my hair's bad or my outfit's bad or that I'm fat or that I'm, you know, whatever it is, or I'm not smart enough or whatever it is. So it's important that we don't count on others for that. And that's the biggest part of surrendering. You know, you're counting on yourself to get rid of all of that. You know, you're not looking to other people to get rid of that. And it's bringing it all back to you. It's centering it back to you. Like, it's always about you. Okay, as much as we want to go outward, the ego wants to go outward and blame the whole entire world for everything. You have to remember to bring it back to you. If you can get past it, then none of the other stuff is going to matter. And so that's pretty much what Casey and I are trying so hard to help you guys to do, is to give you little exercises, little things to do.
To help myself to do.
And myself as well. And help us, exactly, and keep us on top of it. Keep us on top of making sure that we are arriving, that we are awakening into who we truly are, into what we're really all about. And it's not about this little bull crap on the side. It's not about how other people think of you or what you're doing tomorrow or what you're doing today. It's all about right now, this present moment. Where are you now? I mean, go into your room or go outside, take a couple deep breaths and realize the now. I think so many times we're just so busy that we can't even get into the now. And then how the hell are we supposed to do anything else? You know, we're always living, we've covered this before, we're always living in the past and we're always living in the future. And it's like we need to just live in this present moment and live with the now and live with the idea that we are in charge and in power of ourselves. And I guess the charge thing, that's an ego thing too. You know, I'm in charge. But if that's what you need to say to yourself to kind of bring yourself in and get that ego kind of to try to sync up, then that's what you have to do. And be extremely patient with yourself. The ego is a nasty ass, and it is going to try to run you constantly. I mean, actually, that's an exercise I want everybody to do. And you and I too, Casey, is this week, pay attention to how many times the ego tries to run your day. You'll be amazed And how many times? How many times are you getting aggravated? How many times are you getting frustrated? How many times are you looking for a fight? How many times is like somebody just using your pen piss you off? You know what I mean? Just something that simple.
Yeah.
Or someone that talks over you, or even your children, like, why the f are you talking over me? You know?
What's really fun?
Just
So here's my son, in his karate class, they're doing this awareness of negative self-talk, and every time they do it, they have to do 10 push-ups. But it reminds me of something like that. It kind of breaks the rhythm. So it's like if you
right.
notice yourself really in ego or really going there, you can just like drop and do 10 because it just breaks the pattern. It's so, I'm telling you, it's been awesome.
Funny. That's so funny that you say that, because I used to tell, and even my sister Angie, I don't know if she's watching this or not, but she can even attest to this. I used to tell people that all the time. The second that negative thought or that person, like someone you broke up with or whatever, comes into your mind, drop and give me 10. I used to say that because I used it for myself a long time ago, and I was in great shape. You'd be amazed at how often those negative thoughts come in. Yeah. Because that ego is just like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come up with it, come up with it, come up with something bad. And if you can awaken and beat that and come into that place of surrendering and letting those things go, then you will be in such a peaceful place to where you can create, you can manifest, you can turn your whole entire life around. And that's even, drugs and alcohol, okay? Those are ego things, because the ego will drive you so far into depression out of all of its aggravation, out of all of its neediness, out of all of its wants for everybody's approval. It can drive you so far into depression that you go to those outlets that help kind of let you go out of it a little bit. Like it releases you from the ego sometimes, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. But try your butt off to just awaken to the moment. And as soon as you start to feel angry, go, okay, I don't need that emotion. That emotion no longer serves me. It's gone. It's disappeared. I'm surrendering it. I'm letting it go. And I'm going to be present in the now. Okay. And I know that's hard as hell, especially when everyone's continuing to yell around you, scream, say whatever, piss you off more and more. But just little bits. I'm not saying like tomorrow be done. I'm saying tomorrow try once. Try one time with that one moment that your ego comes in and you need to surrender an emotion. Try one time. That's it. And then the next day, try 2 emotions. And the next day, 3. And just see how your mind just suddenly trickles and starts to change. And you start to become part of that dimension of both the horizontal and the vertical. And you start to just be in the now. And you really can start. Do you remember that meditation that I mentioned the first time, our first podcast? Yeah. It was a simple meditation of letting thoughts come in and go out. And all it was listening to noises. Okay, so like, oh, I hear a bird. Okay, done. Oh, I hear this. Oh, done. It's the same thing. Just training your mind to let all of those things just go through. Yeah. And not hanging on to them.
Right. Well, it's like the Buddha spoke about with, not being attached. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to language it, but that, that intersection that you're talking about, it's that still point of where you're not attached. And I think that's a good way to think of it too. You kind of are giving yourself that moment of letting go of the attachments. Okay, I'm attached to this, just kind of, and sometimes I'll just pass by and like touch my surrender box, like, okay, like kind of, exactly. It's like a touch point, remember, okay, for 2 seconds, let go of that. And that just kind of helps you hold space. What came to me today was that old proverb from like the Cherokee Indians, and it says like, there's 2 wolves within you, and one wolf feeds the fear and the anger and the negativity. The ego. And the other wolf, feeds the grace, which is basically also just a willingness to let go. Right. I mean, sometimes it's just literally the willingness. You just need the willingness to let go, and then grace will take over. And it said, and then the little boy says, well, Grandpa, which wolf wins? And they say, well, whichever wolf you feed. And that's, that's so much of what I'm working on. I'm working to feed the right wolf. I'm working to help teach my son to feed the right wolf. The surrender box helps me feed the right wolf, and kind of get some lightness in there. And I don't know why, but it just called to me really powerfully today about which wolf are you feeding, and kind of, are you in surrender or are you in suffering? Because sometimes it really is that simple. You're either suffering and you're attached, or you're surrendering and you're unattached. And it can be that simple. It's what Jesus was here to teach. He wanted to teach you have the kingdom of heaven within, or you're suffering in the human experience and caught up in the experience of it. where you don't feel the kingdom of heaven, which is within you and all around you. And
Right.
always there, kind of power of perception. You can always perceive it if you choose to, kind of all the things that we've been talking about. So, yeah, that was really, there are moments you're like, okay, do I want to suffer or do I want to surrender? Like,
Right.
hey, I'm gonna surrender.
And some days you'll spend the entire day suffering.
Yep.
Because you're just that ego, and that wolf is just wanting to fight. And I'm not saying let's dismiss the human experience, because sometimes those emotions and those fights and those situations are some of your biggest teachers, because they allow you to see and feel, okay, this doesn't feel comfortable. This doesn't feel right. I don't like where I'm at. I'm pissed off. And the only way that you're going to step up and begin to awaken more is with those experiences. So I'm not saying to discredit them, because we all have them and they're powerful. Just like people in your lives, you're like, oh, I'm so glad that son of a is out of my life, but it's like that person taught you so much, and you can either choose to learn and expand from those emotions and those feelings, and as you surrender them, or like you said, you can remain attached to them and carry them with you throughout. And that's exactly why you'll see many times women, or men are constantly in the same relationships over and over again, because they were given them to learn and to expand. And instead of letting them go, they remained attached, and then they kept bringing that same thing to them. Same thing goes for your mood all day long. If you don't let it go, it will come back tomorrow and you'll be in that same spot again, or it'll come back a month from now and you'll be in that same spot again. So that's all we're really saying, is teaching ourselves to let go of all of this, so that we don't have to live that life or that day or that moment again. So how much time do we have, Casey? What's our...
Oh, look at that. It's just... So we're pretty much, yep. I like your little dance.
I know, it is a little dancing machine, that thing.
Oh, that's perfect.
Is that my ego that wants to crush it? No, I'm just kidding.
The wolf, he wants to eat the alarm.
I know, right? No. So, no, I think that's powerful. And I think the next time, I think Casey and I will go ahead and maybe talk about manifestation, because a lot of manifesting is, getting rid of what you're attached to in order to move forward into what it is you want and what you desire. And I think a lot of people,
right now, it's like, there's people like me that kind of, a lot of the path we were on and things we created and really set in motion, and businesses and careers and all this stuff has just been, a lot of it's been ripped out. So it's like, I've definitely got, a lot of holes I thought were filled in, and like, yeah, I'm on the right track. We're really heading there. All of a sudden it's like very uncertain and very, and I think a lot of us have that right now. So we do, we are looking to, how do we manifest, and step one for me was really creating the surrender box and really getting in touch with that again, so that I can have some unattachment and some clean slate to work from, and to hold space for what wants to arise. So that, I don't know, to just, I don't know, the best I have to say is just hold space. It's such a beautiful time to hold space, but now so many of us are looking to what is next, what are we going to be manifesting out of all this uncertainty? So I think that would be a good topic.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it sets everybody up really well for that. So this week, everybody's mission is to start surrendering and to paying attention to each of those little tiny things. Every time you feel an emotion, and who's running it, the ego or the spirit, and just kind of play with that. And then next week, I think it'd be really powerful. I would like to talk about manifestation, because it's one of my favorite things ever to do, is to manifest and create. I absolutely love it. And I've never had, I've had some like misses, and we'll talk about that, where manifested something and it showed up half-assed, or it showed up backwards. But then I've also had, and I think Casey as well, some really beautiful outcomes from those manifestations. I don't think that, and this is something that we'll teach you as well, is that everything you ask for will show up. You just have to see how it shows up. So that's a really cool thing. I'm excited about that. I love that topic. So we are going to move into, is this where we should read the passage, because we're pretty out of time?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. So this is the passage for all of you that did come through this week through meditation for me. And so I will read it, and then we will close out here. Okay. So here we go. Strengthen your being. Pride will never get you through this life of laughter and love. Only love will glide you through. Are you afraid, I ask? If so, why? Because of the unknown? Because you do not know what tomorrow brings? Let me remind you. This is why you agreed upon this life on earth. For the unknown, for the experiences, to make you grander, to make you ascend into soulful bliss. These challenges are not here to make you crumble. They are simple pathways by which you use to become even greater than before you stepped foot upon this plane of existence. You need not weep, you need not struggle, you need not crumble under any circumstance. Instead, close your eyes, whisper deeply into your body, whisper your thoughts of love, encouragement, bliss, and serenity. Your soul is listening, we are listening, we hear you. Now listen to us. Go out, play, pick up the sticks, pick up the rocks, pick the flowers, turn your faces to the sun. Feel the wind rush past your face, and know that you are alive. You have always and always will be alive. This is your life, your time. Make it everything you've ever dreamt of. Create, my loves, create the deepest, most valuable love this life can give to you. Swim in this love, bathe in this love. We offer it each and every day to each of you. Embrace it, be it. We love you, we cherish you, your guided source. Okay.
Wow, that's
so
that talked a lot about creation.
I know, right? It's like it just transitioned into
manifestation.
I know. I'm telling you, it's pretty. That's the other beauty of being going there. I mean, you're gonna get everything that you want. Isn't that weird? The cross, Jesus, vertical, horizontal. It's all tied in. Everything is a goddamn. We're all like this. Okay, we're all one thing. We're all compositive. We're just circling constantly in the same motion, and everything is energy, and everything is being felt, and everything is being heard, and everything is being understood, and everything is being created exactly as you are creating it. So be conscious, be aware, and be present. Casey, I think that box is a great idea. I think I said to you too that it'd be almost cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a box that has the positives and the negatives, the ins and the outs. I'm in on this manifestation. I am out on this emotion, so, having those two slots even.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah. So we'll try that out. I hope everybody tries that out. It's going to be great, and really, really work on you this week. That's really a positive thing to do. Every week, every day, but especially this week, we just want you to kind of put all this kind of into motion and see how you feel. You'll be amazed. You'll actually be amazed. You'll be blown away at how great you feel. Don't you think, Casey?
Yes. I want to be blown away at how great I feel this week.
Yeah, I do too. Is this liquor in here? Because that might help. No, I'm just kidding.
Seriously.
Ego. All right, and you know what? Start calling people out in your life too. Nice ego. Way to go. You picked the wrong wolf. All right. So, all right. I think we're good. I think we're closing out for the night. Do you have anything else you want to say, Casey?
No, just we love you, and remember who you are. Who you are is the love and the light within your heart. No matter what is happening outside of you, center in that love, center in that light. We love you, and we will see you next week. Namaste.